Speaker is Karen Lucas. Let me introduce Karen. Karen joined Toastmasters in March of 2007 through her home club, a university club, Caltech Toastmasters. She is the only charter member still at the club and has served various club officer roles. She was the first district director of District 100, where your club is likely affiliated. She also served as a 2020 to 2022 international director from Region 2. She currently serves on the International Disciplinary Committee, a district mentor to District 52, District 100 leaders, and various other members, as well as the District 202 Transition Committee Chair. Toast, Today she is going to present Toastmasters 101. Toastmasters 101 is aimed for new Toastmasters members or those interested in revisiting the basics of membership in this century old organization. Karen, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Umanga, our program quality director. I appreciate the time that you're giving us today to go over Toastmasters 101. Rosa, I haven't seen you in forever. Okay, anybody who is on right now on this call, if you can turn your video on, I want to do a group shot together. I see you, Katie. I see you, Greg. You look spiffy, Greg. Oh my goodness. That is lovely. We didn't even email ahead of time. That's amazing. Bob, great to see you. Excellent. Todd, are you able to come on? Marty, thank you for coming on. Hi, Habib. Oh my goodness. From Bangladesh. So good. And Lynn, if Lynn and Todd can come. Yay, Todd, you rock. Okay. That is outstanding. Oh my gosh. I love your background, Todd. That is really cool. Excellent. Okay. One, two, three. We are all live human beings, okay? And I apologize if you're doing dishes or cereal or dinner for all I know, wherever you are in whatever time zone. Um, Todd, I see that you are part of 61, 33, 35, 57, 101, 123. Are you also a lottery player? That's impressive, man. Well played. This is interactive. This is going to be an hour session, but I'm going to ask you, please, 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 to be interactive. And right now, I'm just going to have you warm your fingers up and please drop into chat how long you've been a Toastmaster. Like, when did you join? I don't need an exact date, but month and year or year, depending on how old you are, is perfectly fine. Month and year, how long have you been a Toastmaster? Okay, 24. Yay. Cool. That is outstanding. All right, Marty, since 2019. Cool. 11 years, Habib. Umanga, 13. Greg, 38. Bob, a year and a half. Excellent. One. Yay. We've got one. We've got a 1-year-old. Yay. That's so good. Okay, cool. 1997 March, Todd. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Okay, that is amazing. That is amazing. Okay, cool. And Greg's got us all beat. 38 years. I wish I could do something I love for 38 years in a row. I'm still working on it. This is gonna be awesome. Okay. Gonna be awesome. All right. Um, Vishwanath, thank you and welcome. 3 years. Excellent. Okay. So when you look at how many people are in the room and you look at how young we are, okay, and I'm an old lady as well. I joined in my 20s Caltech Toastmasters, a university club. When I had to solve a problem I couldn't, and I was a wildly painful introvert. Now I can cosplay as an ambivert, thanks to Toastmasters. I lost most of my hearing when I was 3 years old, so I'm completely deaf on my right side. I have half of my hearing on my left side, and I have to work at language acquisition at least half an hour a day every day from the time I was 3 when I lost my hearing to today. So, yes, you may steal that. So, it's amazing what Toastmasters can do. And Jana has discussed that earlier if you were in the previous conversation, the previous discussion. She's incredible. Um, what I see here today is another thing that is very telling, and this is just to piggyback on what Jana said. We have about four or 500 Toastmasters just in what we call a district. And I'm going to use these terms a little more looser than if I had brand new people in the room. But today is Toastmasters 101. We should have at least 50 people that are under a year in this room. So this is a district management issue where we don't have those people every single month learning about how to unlock their membership. Now, I was a university club member and I didn't know what an area director was or a speech contest for probably 3 years. Why was that? Because the leader, what I learned to be an area director that was in charge of our club, not in charge of, but like managing, helping our, supporting our club, really just talked to our two club mentors, and they were, wiser, older Toastmasters. They were basically acting as area director also. So we never actually met that person or knew that they existed. So we just knew about our two mentors. And our mentors basically threw two words at us as often as they could. Don't die. They didn't want our club to die. University clubs, I didn't know at the time, were capable of dying super easily. Okay, it's like keeping your first plant in your dorm room when finals happens and plant needing to be watered or remembered that it existed happens, usually finals wins. Plant dies, right? New baby versus bonsai, new plant, bonsai dies. Okay, like you got to pick your battles, right? And in Toastmasters, university clubs are a lot more fragile. They tend to be a lot more fragile than regular clubs or corporate clubs, community clubs. So that was all we were told. Toastmasters 101 is something that happens at the international level at convention in August, if you're lucky enough to book a flight and a registration and physically travel there. I don't know if they offer it online at any recent one, but you'd have to be in the room to get Toastmasters 101. And if you are in the room, usually, unless your club isn't in that city that international annual convention happens to be in, then you're probably not showing up for that. And that's where that Toastmasters 101 sits. So the organization as a whole is broken out into 14 regions around 150 countries. Okay. Not to blow your mind, but to drop it down another layer, those 14 regions have districts. And those districts are between 580 and 2 or 3 thousand people each, with about anywhere as low as 49 clubs to as high as a couple hundred clubs each. Okay. I don't mean to give you lots of math at this time of day, whatever time that is in your time zone, but that shows that we're starting to get down, or rather up, to what the most important part of Toastmasters is. We're at districts now, and then these are administrative levels. You got the district, and then district has divisions, which are smaller groupings of clubs, and then you've got areas that are 4 to 6 clubs, and then you have the club. Okay, and then from the club you have the member, and that's all of you guys. So just out of curiosity, members, why did you join Toastmasters? Drop it in chat. Why did you join? What walked you in that door and said, "Take my money, please"? That's a good one. McGill, yay. Nice. I'll give you one more minute. Agoraphobia. That is a good step into managing that, Marty. Good job. Okay. Celebrating 26 years. Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So looking at the different feedback on why you joined. I saw a dream that I am speaking in a stadium. I joined Toastmasters to make it happen. That's incredible. And you also have with Todd French and English. That's pretty amazing. We have all sorts of reasons why we walk into a Toastmasters club. I had my reason was a health physicist. That's not a lot of people's reasons, admittedly. But being a a painful introvert, I was more trusting of high energy radiation and chemicals than people. Go figure. They were more predictable. So that was my jam. And I worked at Caltech in environmental health and safety. My boss was a health physicist, and he was trying to be proactive or maybe get a gold star from the Department of Energy. I don't know if they even give out gold stars. I'm not sure, but he was trying to do nice, to do right, not out of malice. And the Department of Energy, who deals with us and radioactivity handlers and users, said, hey, we have a volunteer form that we want our designees, our licensees, to fill out or have filled out by their radioactive material users that are female who might be pregnant. They wanted a voluntary declaration of pregnancy. It was voluntary. That's the key word of the day in this whole scenario. Well, he took it upon himself to print out 150 of these voluntary one-page declaration forms and went to every single lab of our 1,000 labs. And any radioactive material user that was female between 18 and 108 got that form put in front of them. Please fill this out. So I get back from Consolidating Chemicals to my desk. I'm the newest person at this gig, at this job, and I have a very scary thing in front of me. A a lit little light on my phone, which means my voicemail is full. Nobody talks to me. I don't have to talk to anybody. I deal with chemicals and radioactivity. All of these females were compelled to call the one female in the office saying, what the fruit? Do I look pregnant? What is this guy doing? This is not his business. I want his head on a stick. Anything in that range. And as a result, I realized that I was probably going to have to break in a new boss at this rate because some of them have, Nobel Prizes and other stuff for things that they've done, and they have a little bit of power. I immediately thought, you know what? This is way bigger than me and I got nothing, but I don't want to break in a new boss. And it wasn't out of malice. He was trying to be nice. He was trying to do the right thing, and it landed horribly wrong. Have you ever had that happen in your life? You mean well, and then it goes sideways on you? That's where he was at. So I picked this crumpled up piece of paper out of the trash, and it's a flyer saying, New Toastmasters Club forming, join. And I was invited to do this because they said, hey, we need a staffer and it'd be great to have you. And, da, da, da. And I'm like, I don't have time for this crap. Bundled it up, threw it in a sturdy plastic bin. And luckily, custodial only comes twice a week. I dug it out, opened it up, and called them and said, I need you way more than you need me. Please, can you help me? You're my only hope. And I was not joking. They helped me with the problem. I told him to go scarce for 3 days. Just ghost anybody and anything, have your tea, hide out in the tunnels, whatever you got to do, which he did. And I went to every female user and had a conversation. He kept his job, I kept my boss, and I kept Toastmasters because I realized there was no way I could ever recreate that. What I came for was an immediate answer to a solution that I didn't have, to a problem I didn't have, and a solution I couldn't manufacture. I stayed because I saw the the absolute amazing opportunities Toastmasters could unlock. You hear that opportunities are only taken if you recognize that they're opportunities, right? And that was what Toastmasters was. So once we stopped worrying about don't die And we sort of recorrected to what does it look like if we thrive? We're told we're a university club and that it's easy for us to die. Well, we need to constantly recruit, recruit, recruit because our members turn into pumpkins and go to other places all over the world as soon as they graduate. So what does that mean? Well, we get really good at recruiting. And when we dip down to 8 or 9 or 10, that means our job is back in this part of the cycle, right? And if we want to be somebody, if we want to be a club of distinction, not for the district, not for some international president, but for ourselves, we got to do that. Knowing your why is a way to steel you against the worst day you're ever about to have. And as a club, our first worst day ever was in 2008 when 100 people on campus got slips. Now that was economic recession drama of epic proportions, but apparently it could get worse. That's a different conversation. But in 2008, we were just barely a year old, and they were certain that we weren't going to make it through. And we got together, the 7 officers, Magnificent Seven, and said, what can our club be if we want it to be anything it could be in the lens of Toastmasters? And what we came up with, hi, Bear Dog. Bear Dog. What we came up with was we are going to have guests come in that are places that are still hiring, that are congruent with the needs of our membership. And we had so many guests for several weeks because we meet weekly, high noon, 1 hour at Caltech campus. And this was pre-COVID in person. Uh, there was actually like a lifeboat of sorts where people that got white slip or got their slips were able to figure out where they could get repositioned and how to brush up resumes they might not have done in 20 or 30 years and how to interview well. And we got to be that resource for the whole community, students, staff, faculty, postdocs, right? One of our members came up to me after a couple months and said, it's going to be my last day. And I said, really? You got a slip? And he goes, no, but your speaker 2 weeks ago really opened my eyes and I could do a lot more good at this other place and they pay fairly obscenely and I'm okay with that in this day and age. So I said yes. And I gave my boss the 2 weeks and I'm going to be working for NASA now. And I'm like, well, alrighty then. So sometimes you don't want to be so sure of what you've got that you aren't willing to settle for more. As a member, you are at a buffet here in Toastmasters. Don't just settle for an iced tea. This is an important thing that a lot of old time Toastmasters, and I'll say old time is anybody 5 years or greater, have probably learned. Your why evolves. Okay. And when you're new, one thing that they don't tell you is you're the most important part of Toastmasters. And I'm here to tell you, you are the most important part of Toastmasters. So when you signed that application in whatever format you did, there was a Toastmaster promise on there. That Toastmasters promise is truly important. That Toastmasters promise tells you what keeps our community together. It's the glue from one member to another. It's not just a promise to myself. It's a promise to Todd and Lynn and Rosa and Marta and Habib and Greg and Bob and Umanga and everybody else. Okay. So if you haven't read the Toastmasters Promise and revisited that in a little while, it's a good time to. I'm looking to share my Toastmasters Promise with you. Give me 1 second because I am going to do that for you. Here we are. It's up on screen here. Hopefully you can see it. This is the Toastmasters Promise. Take a moment to read through each of those bullet points. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Now, looking at this promise, is there anything that stands out to you? You can unmute and just share anything that stands out to you.
When asked to stand up and serve.
Absolutely. Anything else that stands out? So there's attend club meetings regularly. Is it you must attend every single meeting all of the time or else? No. Some people take it that way though. But it's just when you can, when life isn't happening for you, as best to your ability, you attend a club meeting regularly. Toastmasters is here. And some people say, well, in real life, I do blank. I'm not a fan of that anymore. I used to be one of those ones that would say that because I heard leaders say it that way so many times. I didn't think anything of it. But Toastmasters is real life. It is part of your real life. And life happens in Toastmasters. I have heard so many people say, oh, well, I don't want to join Toastmasters because I've got something going on right now and I wouldn't have the time for it. But the time that you take in Toastmasters is an investment in yourself. It is an investment in leveling up your skills, your abilities, your opportunities. And that happens to transfer in every other part of your life. When you think about being in a club that has to constantly recruit, guess what that does for your personal business when you have to be able to articulate why somebody in the community can't afford to not have your service, especially if it's infrastructure security or cybersecurity. The cost of not having it and being breached is too far great a cost compared to being able to be secure and safe, right? And that's my personal, I can articulate why there is a need, how we can address that need, what you get out of it in terms of the return on value and how we build that relationship, right? I do that because I learned it in Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a place where you don't get fired and you're not going to have to sleep on the couch. We're not going to dock your pay. It's a safe place to fail. And the issue that a lot of people tend to have is if I can't do it perfectly or if I can't do it exactly as I should, I'm not even going to try. When you're learning a different language, Todd can probably attest to this, right? I sure can, being mostly deaf, and I know I'm going to sound awful. I can read and write like a pro, but saying something out loud is I feel like I'm going to get squashed because I know it probably doesn't sound right. So when if I were to say to Todd, "Enchanté de faire votre connaissance," right? I know he's gonna be like, "Pshaw," but you know what? I'm glad to meet you anyway, bro. English, French, however you come to me, right? Learning a tonal language is difficult. It's more so when you can't hear very well what the tones are, but you figure it out. So I look like I'm talking about music when I'm actually trying to practice Mandarin because that's a tonal language, right? And I do this with my hands to remind myself, imprint which tones and what my face and my throat should be doing. I figured out a workaround thanks to Toastmasters. I figured this out, and you can too. So attending meetings regularly is just that. Show up as you are when you can in your best format possible. And you might be having a midday, then you show up as a mid self. It's better than zero. We want to see you trending up, right? That's the important thing. Toastmasters started out knowing me as a painful introvert in my 20s, single. It's been with me through trying to build a family and have kids. It's been with me with the stage 3 health diagnosis. It's been with me when I've lost both my parents. And it's been with me on a lot of really awesome days too. Toastmasters remains. My club is my extended family in my third place. They're my ride or die people. And I hope they are that to you too. The downside is if you treat Toastmasters as a thing you do just when the gavel draws and when they gavel out and you don't think about it for 2 more weeks or 1 more week, you're not getting all you can out of Toastmasters. You're just getting that iced tea at the buffet. So think about what it means to be a Toastmaster and how to build yourself and others up. Attending meetings regularly, you show up for what matters most. You figure it out. I have it jealously guarded on my calendar. And my club was there with me when I started doing district level stuff. And I told them, guess what? If the district has a thing on Thursdays at high noon, they get to win. But if you lead and get out of the way, like we did. I was a vice president, I was a president. I didn't sit on it for 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. We had 3 other people that knew how to do that role as well. And we were encouraging new people to do so also. Let's look at this Toastmasters promise. To prepare all of my projects to the best of my ability, basing them on the Toastmasters education program. That's Pathways. That's our education program. So if you're giving a speech about a vacation or some random thing, and then cramming it somewhere into Pathways, are you really preparing your projects to the best of your ability? At least do the due diligence of opening Pathways and going through the project. That's the digital equivalent of opening a book and reading through it. Greg, thank you for raising your hand. It's very yellow today.
Very good. One thing I feel that when you talked about this Toastmaster promise, I've achieved many a pathway achievement, level 1 or whatever, by giving a presentation to my club on the promise.
Mhm.
Why not go to your club and give a speech on the 10 Toastmaster promises and share that with them at least twice a year to refresh their memories? I have a script that I use that's become very effective, and it also, after a while, as Janice says, they finally get it after you keep doing it.
He's right about that. I've heard Toastmasters say, well, I told this Toastmaster to log in and do this and do this and do that. And they haven't done it yet. I said, how many times did you tell them? Well, I told them that one time. Okay. Do you learn everything the first time around? Especially if you're a Toastmaster who is not a native English speaker. Is that really a fair thing to say? We have a phrase, say it again, maybe say it in another person's voice when you're trying to get new information to another person. So I say it again. I might say it again, or another officer might say something like that. Say it in another person's voice. Have a third person connect with that member and have a conversation. It's really important because you want to be there for them and you want them to be there for you. And how they learn may not be congruent with how you learn or how you take in information. That is really important. I am absolute trash at verbal communication, go figure, when it comes to taking in information. If you give me a list of 15 things verbally, I'll catch 4 maybe if I'm lucky and I've had coffee. If you give me a list written down, I got your back first time out. So that might require a conversation in how we communicate, what the differences are. If you send me an email asking me for a thing, I might see it in 3 to 5 days because I get an average of 1,200 to 1,500 emails a day. If you text me, I can probably turn it around in a day, maybe half a day, depending on what my workload is. That's really cool when you think about it. So it's like, hey, text me if you do anything else. If I'm texting Greg, I'm not expecting a response. If I email him, I know I'm going to get it within a day because I know Greg and Umanga and Habib, right? And Habib's in Bangladesh. So if I feel like talking to Habib at a certain time of my day, I mentally do the math to see if I'm waking him up at 3 in the morning because that's rude. That's not cool. There's 24 time zones. And the best thing that COVID gave us is that we are able to connect with each other in more ways than ever before. So I just want to be mindful which time zone he's in versus me because there's 24 of them and I kind of want to get that right because I know what it feels like to be woken up at 1 in the morning for just a casual chat because they didn't look at the time zone. When you look at the Toastmasters promise, To help, I'm going to drop down a couple points to help the club maintain a positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow. Think about how you can bring positivity to the environment. There's a lot of great ways to do that. Part of it is by saying yes to a role. We have the tag team that the general evaluator has. That's the timer, the awe counter, the grammarian. Even if you don't feel like you have the ability to be a Toastmaster or like a major functionary, you can put the fun in functionary at a small level by maybe being one of the tag team, right? Every little bit counts. When you think of each individual person, member, being part of the role as a functionary, then you think about how many people need to be in the room, right? So when you think about having a positive meeting and constructing that, building that as a member, hopefully the best practice that your club is doing is when they ask for roles, the first role they ask for, the most important role, speaker. The speaker is a critical role because without having one prepared speech, you don't have a speech evaluation. And without that speech evaluation, you don't have the three components of a meeting that members get the most out of Toastmasters with. The three components of every meeting is pie. Yes, I've had breakfast, but I swear it's pie. It's prepared speeches, impromptu speeches, what we call table topics, and evaluations. So if you get at least one prepared speaker, ideally you want two in case life happens to one of them, but one prepared speaker, then you need to have next fill an evaluator role. Who's going to be the evaluator? Excellent. 1 and 1. Now you've got 2/3 of the program. Now, if you have a table topics master, you will at least have each of the three components of the program: prepared, impromptu speeches, and then your evaluations. And that evaluation isn't for only one person. That is for everybody listening. With your table topics, the best way to get the mental vitamin, as Greg has it, out of a table topic session is to ask the question and then pick the person. Don't ask for volunteers. Typically, we don't pick on guests, or we will quietly ask or go to the side and say, "Are you comfortable being called upon for an impromptu question?" Some clubs say only members are called upon. That's okay too. But the salient detail I want you to take away is you want to ask the question first and then pick the person. That is the measure of a truly great table topics master. So if I asked a table topics question, what do you like to do as a holiday tradition? What do you like to do as a holiday tradition? I have 8 people right now trying to get together an answer. What do I like to do for a holiday tradition? Oh my gosh, she didn't say which holiday. And then there's the tradition part. Is that it's 5 years of tradition? Yeah, let's go with that, right? You're working it out in your head. Whereas if I said initially, Bob, tell me about one of your holiday traditions that you find you love doing, that you embrace, something like that. When I led with Bob, Umunga, Todd, Lynn, Greg, Marty, Habib, Rosa all got the mental memo. I can take a nap. I don't have to worry about answering that. It's a Bob problem. It's not a me problem, right? So there are actual backings in research that say everybody in the room gets that mental exercise with every single question asked, even if they're never actually called upon to verbally answer. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing, right? So those are little things that maintain positive, friendly environments where everybody gets the most learning possible. The other one that's a bone to pick personally for me, it's one person talking, just rank and file member. I've been to so many Toastmaster meetings. Oh my goodness, so many. I go clubbing quite frequently out of necessity and just for funsies. That there is a hard sell at lots of the meetings, especially at the end. Hey, you got to join us. You got to join us. It's important. We need members. We need. Okay. And when you're in that hard sell mode, it can sometimes land a little desperate. Okay. The best in the world example of how not to do that and still be able to sell the idea of Toastmasters came out of a club in Canada, Eastern Canada. And that club, towards the end of the club meeting, and they were after the evaluations, they were wrapping up and they said, all right, now's the time to talk about like the Toastmasters gifts or whatever they called that little section. And basically, all of the members of Toastmasters of that club knew that that is the part of the meeting where they're going to be asked the same question they're asked every week. What what did you get to do out in the world that you did as a result of being a Toastmaster this last week or since the last meeting? And you have 30 to 60 seconds max to answer. So I heard four different people tell me skills that directly related to making their life a little bit better, or maybe in some cases with a promotion a lot better in that last week because they keep being a Toastmaster and participating. That right there was no, hey, you need to join. You have to join. Our club needs more people, dot, dot, dot. It wasn't high pressure sale. I was hearing from rank and file people what made their lives better specific to them. And then this is something that the VP of membership then dropped into the chat personally to me, not just to everybody, right? But personally to me. And it was and I'm gonna do it in this format. Guess GUEST. Let's name that correctly. All right. So that in the chat. Guest name. Thank you so much for visiting Caltech Toastmasters. I personalized this to my club. We love guests, but we would adore having you as a member. Please feel free to contact me or schedule time online. Here's my Calendly, or on site if you prefer being in Southern California. I'm at this email, this WhatsApp cell. Here's my Facebook. Here's my Instagram. It's the digital equivalent of bringing over a batch of cookies, right? That's what I'm going for. I am not hide I'm literally hiding in plain sight saying let's connect, right? Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. One of the things that just drives me nuts is to watch a guest and at the end of the meeting, they may give a comment. Nobody says, well, hopefully you come back. And it's, if you don't open the door and let them know it's okay to join the club, they may be fearful of asking. So make sure that the door is open and allow them to come in. Hey, if you'd like to join this club, here's my contact information. I will answer questions about Toastmasters. And if you decide to join, I'll help you prepare your membership application. All of a sudden, you're showing, hey, I got an interest in you. If the ball's in your court, if you want to move forward, I'm available. Here's my contact information.
That's a fabulous point. So how many of you are married? How many of you are a daughter or a son to somebody who might be living? Okay, I'm not anymore. So I've lost both my parents, but for those of you that are lucky enough to still have your parents, that's great. How many of you have a person you can call if you absolutely have to talk and you're just hitting a wall in life? Do you have one person that you can call? Okay. And sometimes one is a really big number if you don't have any others, right? Think about the burden of knowledge with all these people in the room, 5 years, 15 years, 25 years, 38 years that have been in Toastmasters all this time, right? But think of that burden of knowledge, what it's like to be new with a group of brand new people that all already have established relationships, connections, know the ropes, know the promise, know all of this stuff, know that they're in an organization over 100 years old with 150 countries and 12,000 clubs and all this stuff going on, all these governing documents and all this other crazy stuff. That's overwhelming. That's a lot going on. Whenever you're in a relationship, any kind of relationship, and you're the new one, when it's fresh, it is scary. It can be so scary. Do they like me? Do they want me? Am I going to fit in? Or just, I mean, like kind of cram into this little section here? Am I to be seen and not heard? Am I right for this? Am I smart enough for this? Do I and it's men and women of any age. This is something that goes through their head in some way. Am I going to belong or just fit in? There's a big difference. Are these my people? And if you aren't on the other end of that conversation, of that relationship, saying, we are here for you, we exist because you need to level up and want to level up, and we want to be there for that process. And it's icky and it's messy, and it was messy for us and icky for us. And you're looking at me as a beneficiary of 15 years or 18 years or 38 years. But oh my God, when I was first here, my first month, my first week, my first year was messy. And it's still messy, but in different ways. We want you. Come join us. Like, trust us. This is a process that works. That's why we stuck around. That gives them the opportunity to say yes and have a little space and grace, because this world is so much different than the world even I was born into. Everything is high res, front of house. Everybody sees all the good, but all the bad. And a lot of people are in buckets, right or wrong, good or bad, very polarized, right? And the way that I was raised, if you had somebody next door that's going away for a week, you still collected their papers, their mail, you made sure their animals were watered and their crops were good, regardless of what they thought about the political climate or whether they drove a car made overseas versus in the United States. They're your people. And it's okay to have differences of opinion and differences of background, but they're your community, they're your people, and you take care of each other, right? So that's an important thing. We create community here. We create that through this Toastmasters promise. This is Toastmasters 101, meant to focus largely on what is our promise to one another? What is it that we do, the fundamental building blocks to build this community? You're going to get an earful about Pathways, our education program. Yes, you should be on that. If you haven't picked a path, do so already. There's a lot of paths. There's more than one right way. Choose one for you. And if you're not sure, that's okay. You pick one and keep going through that path, and you will learn something. I trust you will learn something, and you will be better off because of it. Do not have a crisis of confidence. Do not go into analysis paralysis. To get to be a really good anything, you have to be really terrible at it, make lots of mistakes in a safe place. And then you get kind of okay at it. And then you get competent at it. Don't rob yourself of being messy and making mistakes and getting to just start. And that is why the number one bullet in that promise is regularly attend. That's an important thing. If you don't show up for it, it can't show up for you, right? So when you see that bullet point further down, to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so. In some clubs, you go take a bio break, you go to the bathroom, you come back an officer. Wait, they done elected me as something. What? Now other clubs, they actually have contested elections and people want to serve the roles. There's a whole spectrum of how these clubs that are sovereign units to the administrative areas, divisions, or districts operate. Being a club officer with the other six officers is an opportunity to be a team. It's an opportunity to serve by doing a little slice of work that makes the club better, that makes the pipes run clean, that allows for the physical place to be good or the Zoom room to be on and for the link to be there, to be able to greet guests warmly, to be able to learn in an environment that's safe for everybody. And make sure that the world headquarters people a couple times a year know that you exist, want to stay at Toastmaster Club, and really have a game plan to make the club great for the members. The member and the club is critical. Okay. Uh, Toastmasters Promise talks about respect and courtesy. We have our four core values. Okay. Integrity, service, respect, excellence, all of those four things are really a big deal. And those are the tenets of how we treat each other, how we conduct ourselves. Bring guests to club meetings so that they can see the benefits of Toastmasters. It's always fun to bring guests to meeting, and I think the unofficial mayor of Toastmasters is Greg Scott. I can't tell you how many people have you invited over the years. You have so much flair. You could be a generalissimo in Central America with the 5-member pins and the other stuff.
It's the you two can do.
Yep. Now, I was all about talking up Toastmasters and still am today. And uh, my husband, now husband, went to a meeting what under false pretenses, I'll have you know, and I should say he does serve on the board for you guys now and has my old job, but it was false pretenses. I thought he was there for the pizza because we had full lunch every week. It's a catered thing because university. He later told me he went for a girl and not for the pizza, actually. So, either way, people come to Toastmasters for different reasons. And university, usually it's food, but they stay for the learning and all the other stuff. He's a lying liar, pants on fire. He came for a girl. But you know what? He's a board member now, and he's gotten several promotions and is an associate director. So I think he got more out of it than just the girl. Thank goodness. Um, we also have adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters education and recognition programs. That's pretty important. That is pretty important. Because we want to do right by you guys. Now we have governing documents. You can log in and you can go to 88,000 words, policies and procedures, articles of incorporation, district administrative bylaws. You can do that. But you don't have to do that right now in a new 6-month, 1-year span. Right now, we want to get you settled as being on an education program, getting to know your fellow members, knowing that there's club officers you can actually rely on in your club, and making sure that you get the most out of the meetings. That's the big deal. That's what we're here for. So we want you to get the most out of that. We also, of course, ask that you act within the Toastmasters core values, those 4 core values: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And you conduct yourself that way in all Toastmasters activities. That's really important. We're not going to get along with everybody, and everybody has different personalities and stuff. So, I might not be the type of person that you want over braiding your hair and talking about life, universe, and everything. That's okay. We can still be Toastmasters in a room together, and I'll still pick up your mail if you're one of my neighbors and you're on travel. That's okay. All right. And that's sort of what we're trying to build here, is a place where you belong. You can come as yourself. You don't need to edit yourself. Okay. That is really important. And we have a couple resources I'd like to give you. Oh, that's cute. I love it. I'm reading some of these chats. People ask me how I win table topics. I tell them I write down the questions and during the meeting and then play with them later as practice. That's brilliant. That is so good. I love that idea because it keeps you sharp. I will say Toastmasters almost killed my club before we even were a year old because we have these people that major in applied math, applied chemistry, applied sciences of various kinds. When that person was the table topics master, like the applied math guy, he'd get up there and create table topics questions. And he's like, okay, cool. Welcome to table topics. My first question, P versus NP. P versus NP. Greg. And Greg is like, I got nothing. What are you talking about? Like, I have no clue. Right. So we actually had to qual that and being a new club, new members, new everything. We bought these table topic blocks, and that started us out where they were just normal human civilian questions anybody could ask. What's your favorite kind of pizza? Which apparently is a wildly crazy thing that a lot of people are passionate about when they're grad students at a university. But what's your favorite summer vacation? That kind of stuff. So those topics blocks saved our bacon because we were trying to get out of our own way. We didn't know how to do it at the time. So know that if you see an issue with a club, even as a plain member, you can pull somebody aside and say, hey, I noticed this might be a thing. Maybe a solution or one right way could be this. And giving those suggestions is not a bad thing. How many of you by raise of hands are an officer now? Has anybody gotten into officer mode? Okay. All right. So if you're an officer now, or if you've served as an officer, one of the things that I encourage you to do, the very first thing you do as an officer, when your name is dry, the ink is dry, and you are official, is to think about two people in your club that can replace you. The reason I say that is not because I think you're going to skedaddle super fast. It's because you treat people differently when you quietly say to yourself, I think Bob would be really good at this. I think he'd be good at this because I saw him do XYZ ABC and this other thing too. I'm going to talk to Bob more often and make sure like we have a good connection. I'm going to foster that. And I'm going to do that with Marty as well, actually. And that way I have an heir and a spare in my head of people that might get to be me when they grow up. And that is a much better way of developing people. If Marty says, I really want to be able to know how to put myself out there more, even if it's just like, I want my family to be able to see what I'm doing week to week because they're all out of state and I feel kind of unplugged from them and it kind of sucks. Okay, well, I'm a VPPR. If I'm a VPPR and I can help Marty with that, that would be amazing. And that example actually happened in our district. We had an area director who helps 4 to 6 clubs who was 80 years old, 79 years old, but she was turning 80. And she didn't know any PR, anything. And so for the year and a half preceding, almost every other week, myself or my husband Mark, who's also a Toastmaster, would help her with something, Facebook or social media related and all that. And I mean, we were starting from scratch. Like, what is the Facebook? Okay. And and one day we get this dead tree format paper invitation in the mail, and it's to her 80th birthday party from her daughter. And at that point, we're like, we gotta go. This is wild. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And we didn't even know she was 80. She doesn't land as 80. She maybe 65, maybe. Like she's kept herself very well. We go to this party and there's all of this family from out of state and out of the area. And they're like, we just had to meet these Toastmasters that gave us our mom back and our grandmother back because she was so disconnected from all of us. And she has done an immense amount of good by being able to be tapped into our family again. She Zooms, she does this, she does that. And this is pre-COVID. And it was beyond rewarding to see how something in Toastmasters could directly relate to giving somebody such a big bump in their life. So I encourage you to consider that. Consider what you can get out of Toastmasters. Greg.
Yeah, just another short thing that you think about in the tie theory evaluations.
Yep.
And there's a positive, supportive feedback to help us grow and make suggestions on ideas that make us better, effective communications. When I was working, I had to give performance reports to employees. And then the job I had, the profession was more military than it was civilian. And so I applied the Toastmasters evaluation to the performance reports. I talked about their strengths and we made suggestions about areas that they can improve upon. And we made an agreement together. You should just focus on what you can do to improve this part of your performance. And I'll be there with you, and we're going to do this together. Well, after a while, I had so many folks that had grown in their job as far as being good employees that they were transferred out, and I would get all the other people that needed help into do this with. And so I thought to myself, this backfired, but really you're making a change by understanding good evaluations can help you in your life evaluate things and evaluate people to a better life.
Absolutely. And one of the things as a brand new Toastmaster, you want to work towards being a distinguished Toastmaster. Only 1% of people ever achieve that. And you have to do it by getting and asking for help and also by giving help to somebody newer than you in various ways. I'm not going to go into that because that's more of a pathways discussion and a path to DTM discussion. But you have a good start with your Toastmasters promise with your club. If you're already an officer, I'm actually going to drop in a club success plan, even if you're not, just so that you can see what does a successful club look like. And there's a club leadership handbook as well, and that's in various languages. If English is not your first language, you might be able to find one that you're more comfortable operating in or taking in information. I put up this dashboard. This is our district dashboard. And that shows all the clubs. Forgive me if you haven't had Dramamine today because I'm scrolling. This is just in one of the districts. Okay, so these are all of the districts here. Okay, we got lots of districts, but this breaks it down into the administrative levels. So you have people at each of these levels that want to see you succeed. That is their job. Okay, this is just for a club. So if you're in Pasadena Community Toastmasters, then I can see when you got chartered, where you're at district wise, region wise, for all those administrative levels. I can see that you started the Toastmasters year on July 1 at 27, but you've grown 5 to 32. And I see these check marks and these things that are getting done. When these things get done, the club thrives, but most importantly, it's because the members thrive. So this is our dashboards, dashboards.toastmasters.org. And you can actually look up your own club either by the number or the name here, provided you spell it right. Okay. So that's a really important thing to get to do. And I'm going to stop sharing here. Here we are. I'm going to stop sharing for a sec. That's important for you to get to do because this is something where if the club health isn't there, then the members don't get to thrive as much. And we want you to thrive. We want you to succeed. And each year, as a member, your goals are probably going to be different than the year before. That's okay. If you don't know how to ask your officers or your leaders for what you want to do next, talk to one of the older ones. If you come to one of those older ones and you say, I'm looking to get a promotion, but they said something about how I need to be able to do this, this, and that. How can I learn that in Toastmasters so I don't lose any zeros on my check? That's something that we can figure out. Like, well, we have this thing over here, and we can help you out with that. And that grows you. Are you good with the idea of this scope and trying it? If it's yes, then we will support you and help you through that. And if you don't get it quite right, guess what? You're new. It's okay. We'll work on it. So, Club Success Plan, that's the most recent one that you can find. And if the club is successful, the club success plan is based on the member success. Okay. So you get that. That's the club leadership handbook for anybody who wants to be part of that Magnificent Seven. Okay. And if you click through on that, you will find when you scroll down, the very first thing you hit after the contents is the mission, values, and promises of our organization and the Toastmasters core values, the World Headquarters Toastmasters International Brand Promise empowering individuals through personal development and professional development. That's what we're here for, to help you. And then the Toastmasters promise. Okay. And then once you get down through there, you see all of the information you need to see in order to do your job and to be of service to yourself and others. And this is something we don't just expect you to read and know, but it's a first step of getting that knowledge. Thank you so much for being here today. My promise to you is that little blurb that you saw that I posted for Caltech Toastmasters, you can just take all that information and scrub that off and contact me anytime you want. I'm in Pacific time zone. I'm here in Southern California. If you're within an 8-hour drive, I consider you local. Let's have coffee. I know I'm overdue, Greg. I miss Bear Dog and being able to pet him and say hi to you and have breakfast. So with that, I will add a Greg specific comment. I want you to see in the Rose Parade on January 1st, there's a float made for you. And that is from the Sierra Madre Float Association. It is a self-built by volunteer help only. And it is this year a big fire engine that has the ladder up. Since he's retired from Cal Fire, he'll appreciate this. And a big stack of pancakes, and they're shooting syrup on the pancakes. Pancake breakfast is one of the seasons here in Southern California that the firefighters are very good at. My kids look forward to them every single year. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday. This is a perfect time to say yes to any holiday party you're invited to on Planet Toastmasters or off. Connect, discover, respond, and enjoy yourself and stay safe. Feel free to chat with me anytime. Thank you for being a part of our district and for this training today. It has been a pleasure and my honor to serve you.
Thank you so much, Karen. These are great things you raised and you discuss in here. I really appreciate. I really like that you brought the Toastmasters from it and analyze one by one and talk about how does it affect being a Toastmaster, and these are great points. Actually, as a Toastmaster, I know we as a club sometimes we do not talk about these points, and our members, they don't know what they are, frankly speaking. This is a great session. Thanks for being volunteer and being a speaker in our District 100 Learning Lab. And we really appreciate. Also, we do have another session for this before December. It is December 20th. This is a contest season. So our December 20th, we are going to have two speakers. Both are world champions public speaking. Mark Brown, who was a world champion public speaker in 1995, and Darren Lacrosse, 2001 world champion public speaker. Both are going to do a combined session in 2 hours. The topic is what they are going to talk about: create a stronger context speech. If you are available, please join with us in December 20th, 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. Also, thanks for being with us in our third session today, and have a rest of your day. Thanks again. Join with us. Bye-bye.